This is the table that I painted red and put a top coat on, and then I went ahead because I couldn't control myself and put some dark wax around the edges. But I think you can see here in the picture how the center part is still red without any of the dark. I saved that for today for putting on the stencil. And Amy is here. You want to go back from that side, then you will have a front piece. Amy is with Favored Nest here in DeRidder, Louisiana. But did you make this for us?
We cut this stencil this morning, actually.
Wow.
I got it. I'm a procrastinator. I went ahead and weeded out the part of the design that we're gonna paint and put the transfer tape over it. So that's this white layer that's on top. That's what's gonna help us stick it down.
Oh, awesome.
But it's ready to go. Fingers crossed that this works out good.
What type of cutting machine do you have?
I have I think it's called an SC2 from US Cutter. It's a commercial 34-inch cutter. So first
this is really thick too. This is a special paper you use.
That's just the, trying to remember, oh, that's the paper that the vinyl.
I mean, do you use a vinyl or do you use like a stencil vinyl?
It's a stencil vinyl.
Okay.
It's
yeah, mine too, but
Oramask 813, I think is what I
awesome.
use. Yeah, stencil film 813. I couldn't remember the number.
So apparently it does make a difference when you use
It
good
does,
materials.
because when I first started, I only had my small cutter. I have a brother scan and cut also. I mean, I still have it, but
yeah.
And I tried it with several different kinds of vinyl, and I had sometimes it worked, sometimes it wouldn't. But this one, yeah, this has pretty much
awesome.
been almost foolproof. Knock on wood. All right, so we're gonna pull the paper backing off, and the goal is to not pick up any of the blue. So we're gonna go slow, watching for any little pieces of blue to stick to the paper, and if it does, we're just gonna push it back down and keep going. So far so good. Now see how this is sticking right here on the paper? So we're just gonna push it down and keep lifting. There's the inside of a D right there. We're gonna push that one back down.
Good catch. And here's a difference too that she knows how to do that I don't know how to do. I had to go through mine, if you can see this, and I had to specifically put little cuts in there that have that traditional stencil look where you're like, oh, I don't want to paint that, that's ugly. Then you have to go in and hand do that. So this is definitely
So you gotta watch the inside of some of the letters. Like there's a little tiny triangle for the inside of the A, so we make sure that's down. But usually it comes off pretty good. I think it's good.
it looks awesome.
So which way are we? Is there a...
It doesn't matter, I think, because the table can face either way. Just in the center with, you know, with the words going this way. So we're going to do the short part this way and the long part that way.
Okay.
And somewhere along in here is the center.
Okay. This is a pretty large stencil, so I'm being careful with it, but I'm going to hold it kind of in a U where it doesn't have any weird wrinkles in it. The stencil is cut a rectangle around it, so that is straight, so we know that that's straight, and since you're standing at the end, I guess you can kind of guide me.
Well, this is definitely the center, and then here should be sort of where am I at? Right around in here should be like the center of the end of the blue part.
Okay.
To be, yeah, that should be pretty dang close.
And does it look straight on your side?
Let's
like
I only have one eye that works.
Like from the end?
I think
like it's
so.
not like that or that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay. So I still kind of have that U, and I'm going to drop it in the center, and then we're going to smooth it out.
I was really worried about having these ridges in here and what kind of mess I might make, and Amy doesn't worry about those kind of things, so that happens with confidence.
So I'm going
too.
with it. I'm pushing it. I'm going to start in the center and just smooth out this one side. You don't really want any bubbles in it, so. And then we're going to carefully lay this one down. I think we did pretty good with the centering.
If we didn't, we'd have just moved the table sideways and pretended.
So, okay, it feels like it's sticking pretty good. So I've never stenciled on the paint that Miss Terri sells here in the shop that she used on the table. This is my first time, so I have my fingers crossed that everything goes according to plan.
Dixie Belle Honky Tonk Red, which has an acrylic base so that it does dry and not need a top coat. But I went back over with a top coat on it as well, and then I tried to just wax up to leave us this 12 by 18 inch area here. So
and I think it's a little bit bigger because to keep it proportionate. When I did 12, it was only like 8 inches tall. So I went a little bigger, but
yeah, that's.
Okay, so we're gonna pull the top paper layer off slowly, just like we did the back. Again, we don't want any of the blue stencil to stick on the paper. We want to make sure, and if it does start to lift, we're gonna push it back down and kind of hold it and just go slow. And I like to try to usually go at an angle because I think that tends to work better. I think it's stuck pretty good, so I don't think we're gonna have any issue. It feels like it's stuck.
It's so pretty, I'm not gonna want to take it up.
Let's hope it's not stuck
too
well. Because that can be a problem too.
That's way better than the
okay, so
there's an A.
See the lid? You probably can't see it, but the little tiny piece of A that lifted, we're gonna just lay it back down.
Lean you forward a little.
And there, it stuck that time. So just needed a little extra push. See. Up your pretty tabletop if it doesn't work.
That's where you always repaint. That's the fun of it too. Sometimes whenever I think there's a mistake like that, I have to totally repaint. That was just leading us in the right direction. That looks good just like that. Maybe we shouldn't paint it all.
So it's down, and I think it's stuck pretty dang good. So I usually just look into the light and make sure there's no air bubbles around any of the letters, because that's where we're.
Oh yeah.
That's where we'll be painting, so we don't want it to bleed. But I don't think I see anything. Okay, so this table does have the grooves in it, like she was talking about. And I told her we weren't going to worry about it. We're just going to stencil it like they weren't there. We're not going to try to push the paint down into it. We're just going to go over the top. But then we may have to come back at the end with a little paintbrush. And you might kind of fill in the areas, since they are pretty, I didn't know how wide or deep they were, but since they are pretty wide and deep, you may want to fill in with some paint.
And we'll see how that looks at the end, because we're going for a little bit of a distressed at the end anyway. So
some of the signs I do, I actually cut the grooves in to make it look kind of like shiplap, so they have grooves, and I just stencil right over them like they're not even there and just leave it. But these are a little bit wider, so we'll see how it looks, but we may touch some of that up at the end after we take the stencil off. Okay, I usually use these little makeup wedges, little cheap triangle makeup wedges.
Now, do we need to go over this first with red or clear or anything before we go with our black?
I usually do,
as I have the red paint too.
I usually do a coat of the first coat on the stencil the same as the background color, and that's really to kind of seal in case there's any little areas where it might bleed. It's not a foolproof method to get rid of paint bleeds, but it does help. You know, I don't know. I mean, I think it's stuck pretty good, so you probably don't really need it on this table.
I got the red.
But, does it dry real quick?
Yeah, okay. And I got it all dry.
You want to do like just a really thin, we'll do a really thin coat of the red, and then we'll go from there. Because that's usually the method that we use.
And I do that with this?
Yeah, we just do it with the sponge, and we're just going to do a light coat of the red to seal the stencil. And
do
then,
you dab it?
Here, start. Yeah. So I usually use this part of the stencil where there's not
that's smart, to like offload.
Any design to kind of offload the paint, and then so you just want like a really light Yeah, we're just gonna pounce up and down and cover the whole thing. You don't want it to be thick because it'll take forever to dry. This probably should pretty much be dry by the time we get to the bottom. The top will be already dry. So. I think we got it all.
Okay, should I blow dry over it just a second? Just
You
in
can.
case?
It actually looks
Yeah, it
almost
looks
like
pretty
it's
dry.
dry.
This paint
Has a
is
little bit of
definitely
stain.
thin
We're gonna
coat.
dry it.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a new sponge, and we're just gonna. This is the back of my stencil paper. That's what I always use. I used to use paper plates, and then this is
saving
I get
the
to
environment.
recycle. Yeah, so I use my paper backing from the stencil. So light coats. That's the key. Not a lot of paint. So like 3 light coats is better than 1 thick coat.
And we're doing this. That was Dixie Belle Honky Tonk Red, which has its own sealer in it that we did the bottom with. And now we're going on with DIY paint, the clay-based paint in black velvet. And since I'm going to be top coating and waxing and all this later, it would be good. This would have not been the preferred paint if I was not going to put another top coat over it. But because it is a tabletop and you know it gets a lot of use, you can't really go overboard with all the top coats. So we'll be sealing this with a top coat probably after lunch, and then waxing to get all the close-up crevices to look the same as the rest of the table. And then once that dries, I'll probably come back Monday and put 1 more coat of gator hide, which is the strongest of the Dixie Belle top coats, on there to, you know, doubly make sure that whoever gets this table in their home doesn't say, that old Terri gave me a crappy table without enough top coats on top. We're gonna try. So you're just dabbing.
Just dabbing up and down. You don't want to rub it. You don't want to lift up any part of the stencil.
So in these areas where the deeper ridges are through there, that's where she said don't make it go in there too deep. You know, go over it, and if some gets in there, hooray, but don't force it in there because you might be forcing some under it or something like that, and we'll touch that up with like a tiny
Yeah, we'll
artist
probably
brush.
come back with a paintbrush and add a little bit of black for because like this is right in the middle of the
Yeah.
R.
Will we do that while
To
the
connect
stencil's still
the,
on there?
nah, we can do that. I usually just do that free-handed after.
Okay. Now, do you wait until the paint is completely dry, or just when
To
you're done
remove the
covering it, you
stencil, I
take it off?
usually remove it immediately. I don't ever wait for it to dry. This is pretty much actually almost dry. We're probably gonna do, I don't know, I'll leave that up to Terri. I know she's kind of going for a more farmhousey look, so it not being like solid black is okay because it's gonna be kind of old looking. We can do a second layer if you want. Because right now it's kind of, you can see kind of the,
yeah, let's
little
go ahead
bit of
and
the red.
Yeah, go ahead and put a little bit more on. Yeah. Look at the. Don't know if that's going to make a difference. If you look at the letters, you can still see a tad, because it's such a thin coat, you can still see a tad of the red through there. And if you were wanting it to be lightly coated and you know, for the farmhouse look and not like solid black, woohoo, there's a sign in the middle of your table, then that would have been perfect. But because I want to make sure y'all can see it good, and because I know that I can come back, and if I change my mind and go, man, I wish I'd have told her to just leave that alone, I can lightly sand over it, and or I could dab it with this DIY paint. I could dab it with baby wipe or something, and it's not going to, because this other has already been top coated, it's not going to pull anything else up, but I could wet distress. Okay, she's gonna show us how to take it
Now
off.
remember, we have the groove, so there's gonna be some spots where we don't
Oh, yeah, I
have
need to
the
get
letter together because of the groove, but we're gonna touch that up at the end. But we're gonna pull it off, and fingers crossed, hope for the best. All right, so we got the big part off. We just have to pull out the middles of all the letters, and then the parts that's stuck.
I've never used one of these, so I'm guessing don't push
You
so
just
hard
don't.
that
You don't want to
gouge
gouge
the
your
table.
wood. Yeah, you just want to
Okay.
be gentle with it.
Woohoo! I did one.
But it looks really good. I don't see where it bled at all.
Yay.
So that paint, I might have to get some of that paint.
Well, I know
To
where you
switch
can
over.
get it. At the artisan market at Get Healthy. Y'all know my eyesight's bad. I'm afraid to do too much. Let's see.
If you're nervous, do it. I don't care.
I ain't nervous. I just can't see. I'm afraid I'm gonna mess that up. Here's what I can do. I keep thinking it's gonna pull up the letter, and the letter is staying. Yay! This is so cool.
I think we got it all.
So good.
So, and it's dry. Now as far as like going in and touching this up, that's going to be up to you.
Okay.
You may get me.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it
don't
has
know whether to do it.
It
or whether
has
not
the
to do it.
grooves, which
Yeah.
are obvious. So if
Yeah.
it were,
And the grooves are going to have some of this black here and there in it that I'm putting
Well,
with the wax.
so
So,
you might
maybe I
just
should just
wanna,
leave that alone, and you know. So that would be your choice
That would
too
be
if
your-
you were
your
doing something
choice.
with a groove like this. Is whether to now, because I got this out, a little brush, and we have the paint still here, and I could have come in here and finished out this Y, and here and finished out this line, and here on the A, and that's what you would do. I'm gonna leave it alone because, like I said, you know, like she's saying, we would just touch up here to make that perfect. If it was flat, that probably wouldn't have happened to begin with. But I think because my grooves are gonna have the black in it from the wax, that I'm gonna leave it alone, and that's gonna be part of the time-worn look that it's gonna have. Okay, well, thank y'all, and send us pictures whenever if you do a stencil or have done a stencil, or if you have questions or comments on this, shoot them on here. Let us see the pictures and let us see the comments, and we appreciate you watching and hope to see you again soon. Bye.
bye.